Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with the man, myth, the legend, that ADU guy. How you doing, Derek?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is a topic that I'm kind of embarrassed we haven't talked about yet. And that is, what is the best way to finance an ADU? And of course, you know the answer, right? It's go get an equity line on your house and, borrow the money and do all of that, right? That's the best way.
Well, that's a common belief that I usually would steer people away from. 110 days ago, I might have been more in agreement of that strategy,
Yeah.
but not today, not where rates are and where they're going.
Not today, to steal Dion's line.
and it's gonna get, I think it's gonna get worse. Okay, that's a different show.
Mhm.
But what I will say is kind of a little bit off the beaten path on how do we finance one of these. Let's just make it easy. Let's take all the work. Let's take all the planning. Let's take all the headbutting with our local bureaucracy out of it. And let's put at the very top of our buy box an existing single family house with an ADU.
I did not know you were going there. That is awesome. I couldn't agree more. And again, this, frankly, I hope people are hearing this. This is for investors and homeowners, right? It doesn't matter. I would absolutely, again, if you put a gun to my head and said I only could buy one thing the rest of my life, it would be a single family home with an existing ADU. If I can only buy one thing, that would be it. You could buy them at a discount to rents. You can get a lot closer to the mythical 1% rule in most areas. You get a discount. And again, if you're a homeowner and you can't qualify or you're too stretched, damn it, get an income stream in your backyard. I'm so happy you talked about that. I would definitely do that. Again, as Dion talks about in his way, you got to get a little creative, because one thing you will see in the MLS is realtors are not consistent. They may say ADU, they may say casita, they may say second home, they may say garage conversion. All right, so you've got to be a little flexible in your buy box. But dude, Derek, you nailed it. The first thing you should do is go buy one that is already there.
Yeah, somebody else has already done all the work. You're going to show up, if it's your primary, you're going to show up at the closing table with 5% down. You're going to finance these two legal separate dwelling units, long-term 30-year fixed rate at the lowest rate in the industry. And bam, a year later, you go repeat it again. It doesn't matter if it's your first or your 20th. So yeah, that's where I'm directing everybody right now, is to just take the easier, simple path to wealth with the ADU strategy by buying one that already exists, or even better. This is probably the biggest secret I've ever shared on your show. You talked about realtors misrepresenting these all the time, or ADU potential, or it has an ADU. All we have to do is identify these properties. I like keyword searches on the platforms you use to look for real estate.
Yep.
ADU, guest house, detached garage, casita, finished space, bonus room. When I find them, this is my secret. So I'm looking for single family houses that have illegal ADUs. They're called legacy ADUs because they were built or converted before they were an allowable use in the zone. But now it is an allowable use. So the realtor wants to take pictures of it, wants to market it, and wants to price it as a house with an ADU. But because we're experts in our local zoning code, and your listeners are too, if they've followed some of our stuff, they can look up really quickly with the local municipality and the local tax records if that's a legal dwelling or not. And most of the time, it's not. So we're able to write an offer that's very, very strong that says you're advertising X, but you really have Y, and it's going to cost us a little bit of money for permitting and system development fees or impact charges, or depending on where you're at, they're called something different. It's going to take us a little bit of time and money, but nothing like the time and money it's going to take to build one. So we write an offer that says, hey, we'd love to buy this single family house with this illegal non-conforming use, knowing that we know how to get it conforming and knowing that we can. And we get that at a further reduced price.
Yeah, let's just play that out again, folks. If you want to talk about this and talk about illegal units and when to, when not to, I am not your boy. You need to reach out to that ADU guy and have those discussions. I stay in my lane. But again, yeah, I have seen them. I see them all the time. Illegal dwelling units. And if you're in California, right, I think it was 2 years ago now. Might even been 3 years ago. It was 2020, I think. January 1st, 2020, Governor King Newsom passed ADU laws. Now there are in most locations the ability to have them. So if you can find one that already exists that is illegal, you get a discount. You can, in many cases, save them. It's not like you have to tear them down, right, Derek? Some of them have to be torn down. They're fire hazards and all of that. But many of them, there is a way to quote unquote save them or make them legal. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's right on. And there's multiple ways. And as you get more comfortable doing this, and I talk about this a lot, being able to show up at a property and put your ADU goggles on. You have to look at property in a new lens. And after you walk a few of these, you'll be able to tell which ones were done by a professional contractor and which ones were done by the weekend warriors. And a lot of people, one of the best tricks was people would permit the additional living space and they would permit the bathroom. They just would not permit the kitchen or this kitchenette or the stove, because that's what turns it from additional square footage into a dwelling. So after you walk a few of these, I recommend analyze everything you can that has ADU potential, being there might be an ADU on the property, and then walk. If you're in the area, you're going to be able to do it. You're going to have to make the time. If you're investing out of state, it's going to be harder, but you want to walk everything you can, and you'll get a knack for throwing your ADU goggles on and saying, hey, this is done by a professional carpenter. There's already a smoke alarm in it. This is going to be really easy to convert, as opposed to a garage that looks like a garage from the outside, still has a roll up door and it's falling over.
There's no insulation. And
yeah, you're going to have to become an expert. The bottom line is this isn't easy, but it's repeatable. So build some skills and you'll get into the habit of seeing what will work and what's not. You can always bring your contractor with you too when you're walking a house.
Yeah, I think I love that ADU goggles. That made me laugh out loud. I think we need to like get you custom like labels. Just put ADU goggles on. That was pretty awesome. That was pretty.
Thank you.
That was awesome. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, right? I think a lot of people are like, hey, Michael or Derek, I have my home. I got a bunch of equity, right? I'm sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want to use that dead money. Okay, great. I'm going to go get an equity line and I'm going to pay for my house is going to pay for my ADU. I'm going to get an equity line. Well, let's just talk through the numbers, right? First and foremost, you're probably your 30 years probably already sub 3.5, maybe lucky enough sub 3. You're not touching that. So you're going to get an equity line. Well, what is an equity line? Well, first and foremost, it's variable rate debt. It is also something that will be very likely cut or called as banks get more nervous. Like you said in your kind of walkthrough, it is something that may have been recommended 100 days ago when rates were sub 3. I'm not sure that's a risk I would take today. A lot of people doing these equity lines have the vision, the dream that they are just going to do it. It'll be done in 6 months. They will burr it out to steal a term from somewhere else and pay off their equity line. I got to tell you that just like most burrs, I would not plan on that. The people that I've seen go through this, it is very common where they get 75, 80% of the money back. Then you have 20% more debt on your home. I think you got to plan for that. I think there's too many people pursing burr on anything, and they will be doing it on ADUs shortly, if not already. That I just want people to realize that you're probably not going to get all the money back. We will talk about appraisers in episode 3 to increase your chances, but I want to say very matter of fact, you should plan to leave 20% of the build in your ADU. And if that is okay with you, then okay. But let's not lie to ourselves and say you're always going to get 100% back. Is that fair?
Yes, it is.
If it's not, tell me.
Yeah, for the average person, I would say yes, because they have expectations that aren't realistic, and they want to overbuild the product for the property.
Exactly.
So if they have a residence in a market average area in our country, say it's 400,000, you can't build a custom, super fancy, all the nicest finishings, everything you just saw on Pinterest in your backyard and expect to get your money back. If you start, you call me, you spend an hour on the phone with me, and we talk about how do we design this and plan this affordably? How do we build it? How do we design it? What interior finishes do we use? If you have a really good plan that has affordability in mind, you can get all your money back every time, in my opinion. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk appraisals next time. But I think you can get some of that, 100% of that money back if you do it right. With that said, most people just expand off of that plan. They're halfway through. Oh, we don't want to go with LVP. We want real nailed down hardwood. Well, Formica looked good in the plans, but we're going to go with marble because, Aunt Esther is going to love it. And they get price creep. So just like we get in our lifestyle, we get price creep with our builds. So that's a problem that I often see. I would agree with you fully. Plan on leaving 25%. I always tell people to leave a quarter in the deal. Cool. Not only are you going to have a higher yield, you're going to have a higher cash flow. Maybe the cash on cash will be less, but you'll have higher cash flow.
Correct.
So it's based on your goals. But back to your lead in on that. We don't want to touch our first, because if you haven't been sleepy in the last couple of years, it should be 3 or less.
Yep.
And if we do go with an overage, there's a couple different ways we can finance that debt. I don't particularly like ARMs right now. I mean, if you have a really good variable rate HELOC, you can use that, but people have a hard time seeing down to the end of the road where that music stops and they have to put long-term debt on it. So I would recommend, especially, go to small local credit unions. A spot where you've had a checking account since you've been in high school is a good example. Think small, think little parking lot. That's the kind of place you want to go to. And you want to ask them if they have a custom product for you for an ADU that you could potentially get a fixed rate second. So a lot of times we can get these fixed rate seconds on projected build value. So there's no variable. It's hard to have an investment with a variable rate. That's more like a gamble to me. And I don't ever recommend people do it. I say try to lock up long-term second fixed money. That way you don't have to worry about leaving 20% in the deal. You're leaving all the money in the deal, period. The two ways we get more income off rentals are we get the prices higher or we put less money in. That's the only two things. So I always start with put less money in and get long-term fixed debt.
Love that. It's what I preach all the time. Do me a favor, Derek, where can people find you?
Yeah, thanks. They can find me at That ADU Guy on your site. It looks like I've got a playlist there started, and Michael's done so much for so many people. I'd love to help as much as I can. And if that doesn't do it for you, you can always find me at thataduguy.com or That ADU Guy on Instagram or YouTube, all the places. But if you do reach out, you email me, you call me, I will take your call. All I ask is that you're ready to take action.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek.